Welcome back to Afia TV News today, the discussion segment. We're still in celebratory mood. It's World Teachers Day. Well, it was on the 5th of October, but the celebration continues. Who says we should celebrate the teachers for just one day? It should be a week-long or even a month-long celebration. But what is at the heart of this celebration? What are the things people should reflect on most when we talk about the World Teachers Day? Are teachers still the center of our world? Or has it become something else? Joining me this afternoon to provide more perspectives on this is Obinna Jonnas. He's an award-winning teacher and Kiddies book author. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you, Alex.
On the discussion. So the very first thing will be, who is a teacher really?
Just like I was indulging you before we came on air. So a teacher is a model. A lot of times when people think about teachers, they think about it in connection with the classroom. But no, a teacher is anyone who forms a child or anyone who forms someone to actually help them become morally upright. Keyword, morally upright. So anyone who actually helps a child in the formation of being morally upright is a teacher.
So it's not just restricted to the classroom.
No, it's not.
It goes beyond A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3.
Beyond that.
So let's talk about, in the core teaching profession now, there seem to be lots of issues. We don't seem to get a lot of adulations for the teachers. There's always complaints about this and that. Let's start with their welfare. If you go to a lot of schools, you see more of the women teaching than the men. And when you inquire, they say that the men want high-paying jobs. What is it that is prompting whoever is paying not to pay teachers high enough?
So, you see, it's a lot, right? But let's look at it from the perspective of, first of all, like you asked me for who is a teacher. I think these days we actually have so many quacks in the classroom. Now, because we have quacks in the classroom, I mean, you can't be a quack and expect a high pay. So the first thing is actually to, fix the system, get a system where 100% of teachers in the classroom are TRCN licensed. It's very possible. In fact, the mandate of the federal government as at 2019 was that as at the 3rd of December 2019, that all teachers should be TRCN licensed. Now, when you have TRCN licensed teachers in the classroom, you have professionals in the classroom. Then what you can actually have are people who know what they are delivering and can demand it. No teacher should earn less than 100,000 naira. But right now, what you see, like you said, is teachers earning as low as 41,000, 50,000. And that's because, most of these teachers are not professional, they are quacks. And when you have quacks, they take whatever.
They accept anything they are given.
Exactly.
They know they are not really qualified to do that.
Exactly.
We're going to take a very quick break here. When we return, we'll continue the conversation.
Okay.
You're welcome back to the discussions. We're still here with Mr. Jonnas. Yes, you mentioned something very profound. There are lots of quacks in the classrooms, and to be a proper teacher, you need to be registered with the Teachers Registration Council, and that is where licensing comes in. Talk to us about that. What's the process of becoming a registered teacher? That is the Teachers Registration Council certified teacher.
Okay, so there are a couple of phases to it. So the first one is that TRCN demands that before you actually come and apply for a license to be a certified teacher, you first have to have education. You see, the thing about many people in the classroom is that you see people who, after graduation, have waited a couple of months for jobs, and what happens? Okay, let me go into the classroom and just stay there for some time, and hopefully I'll get a better job. That's why a lot of people actually come into the classroom, not with the mindset of becoming professional teachers. Schools shouldn't accept that, right? It's demanded, it's a fact, or it's a principle by TRCN, Ministry of Education, that every teacher should actually have education. NCE, PGDE, PDE, at least an experience in education. Now after that, you can now apply for what we call the PQA. That's the TRCN exam. Now, if you pass, you get a license. If you do not pass, you do not get a license, and you shouldn't be in the classroom. Just like without a license, you're not allowed to be a medical doctor. So why should you be a teacher if you're not licensed? Right? As at May 2025, the recent exam I was taking, it was shown that 32.8% of teachers in Nigeria who took that exam failed. Sadly, those teachers are still in the classroom.
So, I mean, this is really interesting. And who will, is it anybody's job really to monitor who is licensed and who is not?
In fact, it used to be part of the. I mean, I don't know if you can remember when you were in school, you had supervisors coming to your school and watch your teachers while they taught.
Yes.
So sometimes those supervisors are actually from the Ministry of Education. Sometimes they are from TRC. And right now, you don't see that happening very often. I mean, I've been teaching for in recent years for the past 5 years, and I can tell you that I haven't seen a supervisor, an assessor coming to my school to assess. First of all, are these teachers licensed? Secondly, do these teachers copy lesson notes? You don't just walk into a classroom and say, because I know how to teach maths, you start teaching. No. First of all, you have to be licensed. Secondly, you need to actually have a note, prepare for it, you understand? So there are people's jobs who it is to actually assess, the word is assess teachers. But the question is, have they been doing it? I do not think so.
Okay, at the end of the day, in addition to the problem of not having licensed teachers or registered teachers, there's also the problem of unauthorized schools. It looks like they work hand in glove. So how do you think this problem can be solved? Because it may be difficult to really fish out teachers that are not qualified if we continue to have proliferation of unrecognized or unregistered schools or unapproved. I think that's the word.
Okay.
Unapproved schools.
Okay. So I'll take that from unapproved school, like you said, and also unapproved teachers. I mean, the world is actually getting to a point where we need to rely on database a lot. It's very simple. The Ministry of Education or the Commission of Education in Enugu should actually have an open database system where people can actually go online and find schools that are, licensed by the government, right? That are government approved in the specific word to use, right? The same thing with teachers. Actually have a platform where, and this should be open sourced, where parents, and that's why, the theme of this year is actually collaboration, where it's not just the teachers and the school owners, but also the parents and the learners. So you should actually have parents who actually can go into schools and demand to see the license. I have my license here. Can I see the license, the license of my teacher? You understand? That way you can actually reduce, the freedom of unapproved teachers and unapproved schools, playing it. We shouldn't have unapproved schools because, the damage it's doing, right? Look at it from a long-term effect. Currently, maybe 20 years ago, the crime rate in Nigeria wasn't that much. Right now, it's in the high place. You know why? Because when you have unqualified teachers teach very sensitive topics, it actually affects these kids. And then when they grow up, they're actually immorally structured, and then they do not have respect for, constitutions and cultures of the country.
So, the way things are set up, various states, every time there is a new government, they make changes. They either rejig the way the policy will be. But do you think all these policies have really affected how teachers are trained? Have you seen any improvement in that respect? Because sometimes they tell you, we're going to recruit 2,000 teachers. We're going to recruit 5,000 teachers. Has it reflected in the quality really? Is it about recruiting 2,000 people, but are they getting the requisite training that will make them really impactful persons in the classroom?
Okay, so before now, like before this, and I would like to speak for Enugu State, before this government came in, the answer would actually have been no or maybe. But this government, and kudos to the governor and the Commission of Education, who they understand the problem, and they're actually addressing it directly. First of all, the idea of a smart school, the idea of smart teachers. Right now, it's open source. Like I said, there's a website where teachers who are qualified can actually go and apply, for jobs. And if you're qualified, it's a very straightforward process. If you're qualified, you get a job. That would actually help. Address the issues of not having qualified teachers. I think this government is actually addressing it heads on.
Now, recognition of teachers has become something that's always there at the front burner. It looks like when national honors are being dished out, teachers are not prominent in the list. It looks like politicians always dominate the list. Is this something that needs to happen for teachers to actually have the front burner when recognitions for contributions to nation building is being dished out? Do you think that constantly teachers are being neglected? How do you think that this can change?
That's a very good question you asked, Alex. this has actually affected the confidence of teachers. You know, no matter what I do, I would always end up in a classroom or with a retired teacher. Nobody knows, nobody's going to talk about me there. I think it's high time that the government, gets teachers involved in all those national awards. It's very, very important, And not just that, it's also important that, and permit me to say this, teachers are not just secondary school teachers. Even the platforms will actually recognize teachers like the brand teacher of the year. They don't recognize teachers in the nursery and primary section. They only recognize teachers in secondary school. I think that's not good enough because it's teachers in the nursery section and primary school section should also play a lot.
Okay, you think there's a focus on secondary school?
Yes, massive focus. If there's anything that actually has to do with teachers, most times it's actually about the teachers in secondary school. Why are we not getting awards for teachers in primary school? Teachers in primary school and nursery school, these guys play a lot of role in forming kids. First of all, a child needs to learn how to read. Learn how to write. The child is already formed by the time the child gets to secondary school. And yet you give a lot of recognition, the little recognition that's given to teachers, 100% goes to the secondary school teachers. There has to be recognition for the nursery and primary school teachers because these teachers also give their best in terms of forming the child. Very important.
Very, very important. And but this can change, isn't it? I mean, there has to be a way. If you know that there are heroes among the teachers, they should be celebrated. But shouldn't that start from the schools themselves? The schools will need to start celebrating the heroes among the teachers before some other persons can indeed identify those people.
The honest truth is, the teachers need to start celebrating the teachers. That's where it should start from, because the honest truth is, most schools, and let me speak from the private sector, most schools are actually in need for the business. You understand? I actually have a school, I get in teachers, so I see them as my staff. I'm not really thinking about the welfare of teachers. I'm not really thinking about teachers in the long term. I just want teachers to help me facilitate education and make me get school fees from the parents. You can't blame them. It's a business. It's a business. But if teachers on their own, decide to celebrate themselves, that would actually, force the system, the government, the schools to actually say that, okay, these guys actually have some values and start celebrating them. There is no union as it stands now, and I can be fact-checked, there is no union that actually represents the private school teacher. There's NUT representing the government school teachers, but there are 12,000 school teachers in Enugu State, private school teachers. Sorry, there are 18,000 government school teachers, but there are 12,000 private or over 12,000 private school teachers. And there is no union that represents this guy. So why would I want to celebrate you as a school when you don't celebrate yourself?
So who was stopping them from unionizing?
I do not know. I think that's why I told you that the school cannot be the solution, because in this case it's a problem. You understand? The school, there's some.
So if there could be threats, is that what it says? If you unionize,
exactly,
out of my
control, right? So schools actually, I don't know, but I feel like there's this intention from private schools to actually, help protect their teachers, avoid them from being together.
But the proprietors of private schools have an association.
Yes.
They have an association of private
NAPS.
So what stops the teachers in private schools from unionizing?
That's been a question, and we've been talking about this for the past 5 years.
If the proprietors have a pressure group, what stops the teachers themselves from having one?
And Alex, the funny thing is that when the government wants to reach out to these teachers, they go through NAPS. And I tell them, no, NAPS is private schools. But if you want to reach out to private teachers, there has to be a different umbrella, because the honest truth is that if you go to the private school proprietors, it doesn't cascade down to the private teachers as it would if you had gone to teachers themselves.
So very many things to talk about, but I really have to thank you for coming on the program this afternoon. That's Mr. Jonnas Obinna. He's an award-winning teacher and Kiddies book author.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Because I can see that on your vest.
Yes, so.
Of course. Now, that's the conversation. When we come back from this break, we'll conclude the news. Stay with us.